the more you can know of what's in the back, it's hard to heal what you can't even feel. It's hard to heal what you don't even know exists. So, because the back can go so deep and internal, most people don't even try. Trainers, experts, they just say, don't hurt the back, the whole thing. Be careful for the whole thing. And it's like, what part, what layer of the back, what part? Realizing you can't heal what you can't identify and focus on. There was some study, basically, I'll just reference it with that in front of me, that showed one group was the control and they did nothing. Group two was strength training, I believe it was biceps, doing curls. Group three spent 15 minutes a day, the same duration of time, mentally, basically rehearsing training their biceps. They mentally sat and in their mind focused in first person, contracting their bicep as if they had a paralyzed arm, like they were paraplegic. And after 12 weeks, the control group had 0% changes, zero increase in muscular recruitment and motor unit recruitment and size of hypertrophy. And then the group that actually did the curls was like 27 or 30% increase. And the group that seriously just put intention for 15 minutes, looking at it, imagining it, trying to imagine what it'd feel like, pretending they're doing 10 reps and the time it would take, they had like 15 or 16% increases. This sounds like super voodoo Eastern, like folklore. This is a repeated phenomenon. This is why when you're injured, I say a right cast, you are advised in physical therapy in most clinics to keep training the left shoulder because that will increase the return of the right. So you training aside, you would think you're just getting a more imbalance because this is atrophying, this is getting stronger. But by you doing that here, it literally helps. And so there's a lot of functions of strength, of the neuromuscular recruitment and restoration of tissue that doesn't really make sense to us in terms of our gym brains and how we see building blocks. You just put in the actual work, it gets better. But the intention is shown very consistently to make a difference. And so I say all that to say this. A lot of people view the back as just this, right? Rear delts, your traps, rotator cuff, rhomboids, low back. So this low back ability, right? We think it's just this a lot of times in bodybuilding. As I started being in physical therapy clinics and helping people with this stuff, I started to see, okay, there's more to it. There's longissimus, which runs the long ways all the way up the middle of the spine. Spinalis thoracic is mid-back interspinalis, basically. You have all these muscles that run up and down. And they talk a little bit about the low back, these three groups that make up the spinal erector, the big low back muscles, right? So you start to see a little bit more. And then when I actually injured my back and was really trying to figure out what is still hurting, I'm strong in the big muscles. That's when I realized, oh, if you even looked at a 1 inch area of your spine, there's dozens of muscles in every 1 inch. There's these things that prevent and cause rotation near the spine, interspinalis, which is in between every part of the spine. All of these muscles get affected when there's a disc bulge, when there's nerve pain. Anywhere there's nerve pain and your body's trying to protect, it will inhibit motion and muscular activation anywhere needed to avoid that dangerous position in your mind and musculature. So these tissues will get really, really weak and tight. So when you start doing a back extension or trying to go back to deadlifts or whatever it is, you didn't address this and you will keep flaring up right there. That's why I tried to slogan the issues, the tissue, because all of this was coming back to intentionality. You know, that study I was saying you could actually change size and strength of musculature, at least somewhat over time through intentional focus. That's alluding to when we're doing our training sessions, you want to be actually intentional about the very thing you're afraid of. Think about that one spot in your back that you know worries you in a back extension, or that one position where you're expecting the pain. If you can imagine that spot, but reframe it and be welcoming and be very gradual and treat this as a win, the better you can isolate that understanding, that viewpoint. I'm targeting this area or this part of the disc or this part of the joints, whatever it is. What are the odds that you have a better healing response over months? The person A who says, I'm just going to train my back, and they do with all the reps, they train their back with no intention to their weak point because they don't even know this stuff exists. They just view the back as one big thing. And then person two does the same sessions, has the same reps and sets, but they're informed on all the tissue and specifically what tissue is their problem or where are they afraid. And they put good intention at that movement. What you'll realize is whether it's voodoo stuff or it's literally person A doesn't realize they're avoiding flexion and person two realize they're avoiding flexion. You might realize the compensations in the movement when you're that intentional. Either way, better outcomes for person two. So that's why the more you can know of what's in the back, it's hard to heal what you can't even feel. It's hard to heal what you don't even know exists. So because the back can go so deep and internal, most people don't even try. Trainers, experts, they just say, don't hurt the back, the whole thing. Be careful for the whole thing. And it's like, what part, what layer of the back, what part? And so that's why, for me, I try to balance talking a lot about like the sets and reps and the investment to the tissue, just do the work, but also with, hey, your perception along this journey can kind of make or break it because when you study too hard day by day of how you're doing, you might get fearful. But if you also carry high level intention and good emotion and regress properly, and you have enough stacked days of good sessions, your perception can actually really improve this stuff. And I only say this from working with people, and I could see the pessimistic clients I had that really struggled to be positive, and I don't blame them. Pain is so real. They really had a harder time healing. And the clients who were probably in really bad pain as well, when I was a personal trainer, they seemed to find faster results over the 6 months. And I don't pretend to necessarily understand the whole thing. You could easily say, well, the pessimistic person was just in worse injury. That's why they're pessimistic. But it's stuff that looking back on my journey, I just wish I knew more about the back. I wish someone was talking about it. And there was some back guy on like social media that was telling their true story. Um, because there was nothing relatable to me about like the expert advice that I was following. It just didn't work. And then I felt like I was the problem. Like I guess I'm just not meant to back squat or I'm not meant to do whatever because I did all the bracing and it's been 6 months. I guess I'm like over the hill.